So for the Unit 2 exam review, we are going to be going over topics from chapters 5 through 8. In chapter 5, you may recall, we had done mean, median, and mode. So remember, mean is just a fancy word for average. We are going to total up what is there, and we are going to divide by the number of items we have. Next is median. That is the middle value. So we need to put those in least to greatest order and then see what is in the middle. If there's not a distinct middle, you take the two middle values and average those out. And finally is mode. It is the most occurring value. If all values appear once, if all values appear twice, there is no mode. Mode is something that you also might not have at all, or you could have multiple modes. If one particular item appears 3 times and the next one appears 3 times, and that's the most we see of a particular item, then the mode might be more than one thing. So let's do these here. So first, to find the average of number 1, we're going to total up 185, 90, 92, and 77. So the total is 444. If you count the number of items, you'll see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. So just divide by 5. Round to the nearest tenth for me. And that is 88.8 is the mean. Now for the median and mode, let's put the list of items in least to greatest order. So 77, 85, 90, 92, and 100. Now we had 5 items, so our middle value is the third one. You'll see there are 2 things below it and 2 things above it. So 90 would be the median. This is a list where every single thing is different, so there is no mode. Let's take a look at the second one. For our second one, to find our mean, let's go and total those up. There is a total of 63. There are 8 items. So divide that by 8, round to the nearest tenth. When rounded to the nearest tenth, that is 7.9. Now for median and mode, let's go ahead and put those in order from least to greatest. And I always kind of check. I had 8 items, so just make sure you have 8 in your list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's a good little check for you. As far as median goes, since there are 8 items, the middle is right here. And since 8 splits the middle on both sides, if you average 8 with 8, you're going to get 8. So the median is 8. Now, you'll notice that our 8 repeats twice, our 10 repeats twice. So this one has 2 different modes. There's a mode of 8 and a mode of 10. They both appear most often than anything on the list. Let's do it one last time. Again, to find the mean, let's total that list. We get a total of 500. There are 7 items on our list. If we divide by 7 and round to the nearest tenth, that is 71.4. Now let's put them in least to greatest order so we can find the other items. There were 7 items on the list. Just count that you have 7 things listed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sometimes I'll also even, like as I write them down, I might cross them out as a way to, just verify that I didn't forget anything. Now, as far as median goes, for 7 items, if you'll see if I highlight this 4th one here, there are 3 things below it and 3 things above it. So that makes that our middle value. So that is our median. It also happens to be our mode. It is the only thing that has a repeat. And so 80 is our only repeated value. So that is mean, median, and mode of a set of data. Now we are going to find average in 2 different ways. So if we think about how many things you have as your total points and how many things were possible as the total number of things possible, what we're going to do is we're going to add up our total points for all of our grades. We're going to add up how many points were possible. We're going to divide those off to find our average in the class. So if we add how many points that we have received, you will see that we had 401 points. And there were 470 points possible. So if we divide how many we got out of how many total were possible, round to the nearest tenth, we have an 85.3%. Now, the calculator will read 0.853. So if you just move the decimal place 2 to the right, or if you multiply by 100, you'll find your percentage. Now in number 5, that is going to be a weighted type grade. So we're going to do exactly what we did for number 4, but only in specific categories. So we're going to do that and find our percentage for homework, our percentage on the tests, and our percentage on the final exam. So let's find the percentage, just like what we did with 4, in each category. Now, the percentage we got in our homework, if we add them up, we had 61 points that we received out of 70. Let's go to the nearest tenth. That is 0.871 or 87.1%. Now we're going to do the same thing for tests. Our total was 172 out of 200. Which is an 86%. Your calculator will read 0.86. Just move that decimal place over 2 places for an 86% exactly. And then our final exam was exactly 168 out of 200, or an 84%. Now we're not done. Remember, we have 40% is for homework and 30% is for tests and 30% is on the final exam. That's how Professor X weights his grades. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 87.1 times 40%, which is 0.40, plus 86 times 30%, which is 0.30. Let me write that a little nicer. Plus 84%, which is only 30% of the grade, your final exam. And then you're going to add that up, round it to the nearest tenth, for a total of 85.8%. Now, in any sort of class, you would get an 86%. You know, if that was a border grade, it would round up to 86%. So that is a little bit how you find your average, whether your professor uses total points or whether they weight grades. They're similar. Now let's talk about doing GPA. For GPA, remember you get quality points of 4 points for an A, 3 points for a B, 2 points for a C, 1 point for a D, and 0 points for an F. And you get those quality points for every credit that you are taking. So what you're going to do is you're going to need to do quality points divided by total credits. Okay, so let's do the quality points first. We had a B, which is 3 points, times 4 credits. A was 4 points for 3 credits. We had another A, 4 points for 4 credits. And then another, AC, which is 2 points for 4 credits. And an A, which is 4 points for 2 credits. So just multiply each one of those for 12 plus 12 plus 16 plus 8 plus 8. You know, you pretty much follow that order of operations. You have to do the multiplications for each of those for a total of 56 quality points. Now the total credits are just how many credits did you take that quarter? So you took 4, 3, 4, 4, and 2. You took 17 credits. So your GPA is just going to be quality points divided by credits. Now I think the GPAs go out to 2 decimal places, but let's go 3. Let's go 2, and that's 3.29 GPA. The 3 indicates that your average is a little bit more than a B, so somewhere between an A and a B, a little bit closer to the 3.0. So that would be your GPA for that semester. Now, if you wanted to find your GPA for overall, you would have to total up all your quality points over all your semesters and divide it by your total credits. And most your transcripts will kind of break it down by semester, and as you accumulate more credits and quality points, they will keep accumulating that GPA. So that would be your GPA for the semester. Now, we are not going to have any Excel on the test. We are just going to do the more algebraic mathematical components on the test itself. So let's talk about some of the formulas for Chapter 7. This first formula here says to find the distance traveled when you have gone a rate of 50 miles per hour for 3.5 hours. So our formula is distance equals rate times time. Our rate is 50 miles per hour. Our time is 3.5 hours. So our distance is just going to be rate times time. Now you would have to make sure that those are in the same units. So, if one was minutes and one was hours, you would have to make sure that they're the same. One is 50 miles per hour, the other is hours, so our answer will be in miles. So we're just going to multiply those, and the answer is 175 miles. Please, when there is a unit involved, write down the units. Don't just say 175. 175 what? Tell me that. Let's take a look at B. It says find the degrees Fahrenheit if the Celsius is 20 degrees. So let me write down the formula. So in this spot right here, we're going to put in the 20. Now, if there is a coefficient on a variable, that means to multiply. So if you wanted to do it in your head, or if you want to do it in a calculator, you're going to do 9 times 20 and then divide by 5. You can also type in some calculators the fraction 9 over 5 and then hit times 20. But it's just, that's indicate 9 divided by 5. So it's 9 times 20 divided by 5, or 9 divided by 5 times 20. They'll get you the same place. And then you're going to add 32. So 9 times 20 divided by 5 is 36. We're going to add that 32 on for a total of 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The last sort of formula we'll have is more of that slope intercept form of a line, and it says to find y when x is 6. So go ahead and write down your equation. Take out your x, put a little parenthesis there, and that's where we're going to put the 6. Now remember, that means the 2x means 2 times whatever x you were putting in. So do that multiplication first. Multiplication comes before subtraction. So 2 times 6 is 12, minus 10 is 2. So there's a little about using some formulas that we have seen. Next, let's talk about linear equations. You're going to have 3 linear equations to graph. One that is in slope-intercept form, one that is an x equals for a vertical line, and one that is a y equals for a horizontal line. So I am going to ask you, what is the slope and the y-intercept for that line? So remember, y equals mx plus b. The coefficient on the x is our slope. The b is our y-intercept. So in this particular case, the slope is -1/2. The y-intercept is 2. So that's the point, 0, 2. Now, if we have a table, we're going to do exactly what we did for number 9. We are going to plug in the x in that spot right there. So I'm going to write my equation over here. Y equals -1/2 x plus 2. And then I am going to stick in the x values that you see there. The first x value that goes in is -1. We're going to do a negative times a negative, which is a positive. 1 times anything is just that thing. So 1/2 plus 2 is 2.5. Let's do it again. We're going to do y equals -1/2 times 0 plus 2. Well, 0 times anything is 0, and when we add 2, we're going to get 2. Let's plug in 1. y equals negative 1/2 times 1 plus 2. 1 times anything is just itself. 1/2 plus 2 is really 2 minus 1/2 minus a 0.5, so it's 1.5. And then finally, our last one here, y equals negative 1/2 times 2 plus 2. A negative times a positive is a negative. Half of 2 is 1. A negative 1 plus a positive 2, we're going to subtract the value and keep the sign of the bigger thing, which is a positive. So it's going to be a positive. Now, let's go over and put on the points, but I want to also talk about if we did it with slope-intercept form. So our first point is negative 1, 2.5. Now just guesstimate to the best of your abilities where that's at. And then at 0, we're at 2. At 1, we're at 1.5. Those should line up in a perfect line. If they do not, something you're doing is wrong. These are linear equations, lines. No matter what, they should make a line. And then at 2, we are at 1. Now, we also discussed graphing using the slope and the y-intercept. So we could also use that information. You might recall that means we would start at 2 for our first point. We would go down 1 and over 2 to find our next point. So you'll notice those are already points on our line anyway. So you could also graph it with that. You could graph it with that. You can check your work that both of those things and this table should align up. And you'll notice it makes a perfect line. So then graph your line. Okay. So that is graphing those. Let's graph our last two equations. We're going to graph x equals 2. That is a vertical line. So go over, find where x equals 2, put a little dot, make a vertical line go through that. This is a horizontal line. Go to where y equals negative 3. Put a little dot and make a horizontal line. So that is what you're going to need to know about graphing lines. Let's take a look at the last piece of information from Chapter 7. It says, how much is your tax if you make the following money? So let's look over this chart here. Okay, so first you're going to find where your taxable income lies, and then the instructions on what to do is to the right. Okay, so let's look at our first one here, $300,000. Anyone that makes $300,000, that is in this category. It is more than $186,350, but less than $405,100. So the tax information is right here. Okay, it says that you have a fixed amount you have to pay, $45,354, 33% of the excess over $186,350. Okay. So the first thing I would do is let's just write down the $45,354 and then put a little plus sign to remind me we have to add on something. What do we add on? Just take 300,000 minus off 186,350. What is over 186,350? Well, we have to subtract to see how much extra we made. And you'll see that we made 113,650 over the 186 threshold. And then we're going to take that times 33%. So if we multiply that times 33%, this is money, so do 0.33 and round to the nearest penny. So that's going to be $37,504.50, and you just total those up. So that would be $82,858.50. Okay. Now let's do it again for 15,000. So find where 15,000 lies. If it lies right here, you are responsible for paying $908 and 15% of the excess over 9,000. Okay, so I'm going to write down the 908 that I'm responsible for. I'm going to put a plus. Okay, and then I am going to do a calculation. So then I am going to take off 9,075. Okay, so 15,000 minus the 9,075 is $5,925. That is the excess over the $9,075 limit. It's always this number here. Okay, and I have to take 15% of that. Okay, so I'm going to do 5,925 times 15%. I'm going to round it to the nearest penny, which is $888.75, which I have to add on to the 908 that I knew I had to pay, for a total of $1,796.75. One more. This one says we made $8,000, which is in this category. And so it just says all you have to do is take 10% of your taxable income. So we're just going to do 8,000 times 10%. Now you can use 0.10, or if you have a percent button, you can hit the percent button, but 8,000 times 10% is $800. So that is how you use a taxable income chart. Let's take a look at Chapter 8. Chapter 8 explores proportions. So we're going to explore proportions, and we're going to explore scatter plots. So let's take a look at these proportions. Now, to solve a proportion, remember what you're going to do. You are going to multiply by the numerical components that are across from each other. Whatever number you haven't used, you're going to divide. So x is just going to be 4 times 1.2 divided by 0.8. So we're going to multiply the ones across from each other. Whatever number we didn't use, that's what you divide by. So 4 times 1.2 divided by 0.8 is 6. Let's look at the next one. In the next one, 5 and 14 are across from each other. So x is going to be 5 times 14 divided by the number we haven't used, 7. And we get that x is 10. And the last one of this sort, 5 and 12 are across from each other. We're going to multiply those. We're going to divide by the number we haven't used. And we get that x is 30. Now you can check any of these proportions. You can check your work. Once you think that x is 6, you can do 4 divided by 6 should be the same as 0.8 divided by 1.2. If you think that x is 10, and you put it there, 10 divided by 14 should be the same as 5 divided by 7. And then if you think x is 30, you can check your work. You can do 5 divided by 2 on your calculator, should be the same as 30 divided by 12. So you can check these pretty darn easily. Okay. And then let's talk about how we can use proportions in some word problems. So in number 19, it says, using a computer, Mary shrunk a rectangle to have a 2-inch width that was originally a 12-inch width with an 18-inch length. Find the length of the small rectangle. So what I like to do is I like to decide right off the bat how I'm going to set up my proportion. So I'm going to do width over length. So the original was 12 inches over 18 inches. And that's width over length. So we're going to have 2 inches for the shrunken one over x. The length is what we have to find. So you'll notice these are both width. These are both length. This is the original. This is the shrunken version. And then once you set it up, it becomes exactly like problems 16 through 18. We are going to cross multiply. So x is going to be 2 times 18 divided by the number we haven't used, 12. And we get that x is equal to 3. Now this one has a units, so give me the units, and the units are inches. Let's do one more proportion. Let's do number 20. The Mexican peso is worth 6 US cents. How many pesos can you get for $4? So we're going to do pesos over US. So if I know 1 Mexican dollar, or 1 peso, is the same as 0.06 United States dollars. On the other side, it says how many pesos, so that's your x, would be $4. So we're just going to multiply by the numbers that are across from each other. So multiply these, 1 times 4. So x is going to be 1 times 4 divided by 0.06. And we could get 66.67 Mexican pesos. So that is how we do some word problems with proportions. The last topic that's going to be on the test is scatter plots. It says, what is the slope and the y-intercept of the line shown, and what do they tell us? Okay, so you'll notice this number right here. That is your B. That is our y-intercept. So at time 0, so at the start, we had 35 gallons of water in the pool. So there were 35 gallons of water at the start. Okay, so that's what that tells us. Now the next thing it asks is about the slope. So I found the y-intercept first. It's the easiest one to spot. It's where I hit the y-axis. Remember, that's our starting place. Now, let's think about our slope. Our slope is going to be negative because the water is going outward. We're losing water. It's a negative. And so let's just find some nice points. So I'm going to go here and here. I just found 2 nice points, okay? And I'm going to count that I'm going to go, and this graph paper counts by 5s. I'm going to go down 5, 10, 15. So I'm going to go 15 down, and then I'm going to go 5, 10, 15, 20 over. So if we think about what that tells us, the y value is the water, the x value is time. See how we got water, time. So this is, we are losing 15 gallons every 20 minutes. Now you can reduce that down. They're both divisible by 5. And if we divide them both by 5, we get -3/4. So we lose 3 gallons of water every 4 minutes, or you can say every minute, if we think of it as a unit, we lose 0.75 gallons. But this, saying we lose 3 gallons every 4 minutes, saying we lose 0.75 gallons every minute, all of those mean the same thing. They're perfect, okay? So it says down here to write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line. Well, what's great is we found the slope, we found the y-intercept, so our slope just goes right here. It attaches to our x, it's our coefficient on our x, and our b goes right here. So that is the equation for this particular situation, that we're losing water and at the rate that's shown in the picture. And then finally in 4, it says use that equation we've just made to make a conjecture about the amount of the water left in the pool after 40 minutes. Well, after 40 minutes is right here. It looks like it's going to be about 5 gallons should be left, but let's use the equation to show that. So remember, we're thinking that the time is 40. Remember, x's are our times. So let's stick 40 in. Let's see what we get. Well, -3 times 40 is -120. Divide that by 4, get -30. Plus 35 is indeed 5 gallons. So your equation should match your graph. They should go hand in hand if you pulled the correct information out. So that is what you need to study for your Unit 2 exam.